Paltrocast.
Scott, Neil, pleasure be speaking with you both. And first, we'll throw to Scott. We'll give it a two-parter. We'll go, how are you? And how did you and Neil first connect?
Ooh, nice. I like that question. How am I? I'm pretty well. This has been such a journey with this film, and it's such an honor. I'm gonna get choked up. Such an honor to be able to make films and then have them reach an audience. Neil, I don't know if I've ever told you this story. My first film festival was South by Southwest. And one of the most amazing parts of it was not just seeing an audience laugh and cry at the right places, but it made me pause and go, oh, good, I'm not insane, right? The thing, right? I'm not
an emotional reality check. Yes, very interesting.
And vocabulary, Neil, right? You're amazing, brilliant writer. The vocabulary I was using as a filmmaker made sense, right? It just reached them, and it gave me the power to continue and try and go forward. So yeah, I'm good, and it's a wonderful honor to bring another film to the world. And the response that we've gotten so far has been really emotional, difficult at times, like to go back and relive some of these things, but cathartic and empowering, and getting people to feel that they have the courage to stand up against disinformation bullies. So I'm very well, thank you. And now I'm also very well because I've had the great honor of collaborating with Neil deGrasse Tyson for the second time.
Sure. And
he's become not just a.
I have no memory of when we met. Maybe Scott remembers. I feel like I've known him my whole life because like he's been in my face continuously, like for this whole thing. I don't remember a time when I didn't know Scott, but surely there was a first day.
I'm going with that as a compliment. And so the way we met was very easy. It was actually through his speaking agent, because he became a narrator, thankfully, on our previous film that we did together called Food Evolution.
Yes.
And it's been a wonderful honor that he's become a friend and a mentor, and just an amazing collaborator. Keeps me on the straight and narrow, keeps the jokes coming, keeps the facts coming. It's been an amazing journey.
And of course, I'm an astrophysicist, so
yes,
for that reason, I'm not interviewed in the film because my expertise is the universe. But relevant to the film, I think I have an acute expertise in getting science to the people who need it.
Yes.
Understanding of science, reaching into their receptors, knowing what those receptors are, shaping the message to minimize the impedance between what you're delivering and what is received. And that is, and my role as script advisor, formal role as script advisor on this, was full of such examples where I was able to enhance the already beautiful. You saw the movie. It's a beautiful, I mean, it was a human story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that we could add the authentic science elements of this without subtracting from the human side of that story, which I've seen the movie, I've seen it 20 times. I still well up in various scenes within it. So that means it's worked. So Scott, it's working. Okay. Just
don't
so you know.
Let me stop you. Keep going.
Well, if I can throw a compliment at Neil now, you said, hey, I'm an astrophysicist. That's just one of the many job titles, because producer here, you now have more acting credits than without anybody because of all.
I would say their appearance credits, not acting credits. So yeah. Don't call me. I don't know how to act.
I disagree on that end. The host, all the Star Talk stuff, and being the producer on that end, you have a lot of damn job titles at this point in time. Now, so does Scott. And we're here, of course, to talk about Shot in the Arm, and we'll get back to that in a second. But I'm curious, Neil, if you knew about Scott's past as a music video director.
No, but in fact, I still don't. Yeah. However, it comes out in conversation, and I said, "What? Huh?" And Scott is highly pop culture music fluent, and that you don't get that by accident. And so, while I have not probed it, pieces of it have gurgled up, and makes me say, I go, huh? What? You do it like a double tap. No, Scott, no, that he was just my documentarian. Since when is a documentarian? on social issues,
Yeah.
so completely and thoroughly fluent in music and the music industry. So no, I still have yet to plumb the full depths of that background.
I didn't know if the answer was going to be, oh, that was the commonality of why we met in the first place. I was at that Slick Rick concert.
Can I give a few? Can I give a few titles that I joined? Yeah, I'm so honored that I started in music videos. Yeah, so couple Slick Rick videos, and he's a maestro. So please go look at Mistakes of a Woman in Love with Other Men. It's a beautiful film, and Rick and I are still friends on social media. Just a brilliant artist and an icon in hip hop. And then Jimmy Cliff's I Can See Clearly Now, probably the biggest pop hit that I ever did, and just a great honor to work with that maestro. So yeah, it was a fun place to start. It was a wonderful place to cut my teeth as a director and storyteller. I was doing it in my early 20s, and I barely knew what the hell I was doing. I just guess I convinced somebody to allow me to do it, and I worked with great collaborators and worked really hard to get better and better. So
you didn't say Mad Cobra, which is disappointing, Scott.
Oh, thank you. Oh yes, Flex, Mad Cobra. That was a big Jeep pumper in New York City. Yeah, that was a great one. That was a great one. So
back to Shot in the Arm here, Scott. From your eyes, how long did it take from starting it to having the film?
I got to show you something real quick.
Sure.
Wow. Sorry. Say your question one more time, Neil. Overlap.
No. I got to show you something real quick.
Oh, wait, hold on. Look out.
You spent all the time talking about music. Okay?
Yeah.
Because it can't leave me completely out of that conversation.
Oh,
so
I know about your dance pass, Neil.
Oh, no. This is the platinum album from Logic. Can you see it?
Yeah.
And presented to Neil deGrasse Tyson to commemorate RA platinum certification. So I narrate part of one of these songs, one of the tracks on this album, and it went platinum. And so I don't know even where to put it, like next to Van Gogh.
I think if the American flag goes a little bit that way,
you get a little bit of
Van Gogh.
Okay.
That's amazing, Neil.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, the only platinum record I have in this apartment is something I took out of the dumpster when I was working at Viacom. I took a Kiss platinum record that they were throwing out. So anyway,
wow.
I worked with them too. I worked with them as a production assistant. So yeah. Anyway, keep going.
The next time I interview you, Scott, we'll talk about Gene Simmons of Kiss. But anyway, with Shot in the Arm, how long was it from the concept to actually locking it? Because I know that you were touring the film festival circuit before the film was finished.
Sure. So God, the journey. I asked a friend once, does it make me crazy or part of the process that it takes me this long to complete a film? And he said, quite simply, both. So yes, it does take me time. This one from probably, let's call it the first day I contacted Paul Offit when we were looking at a measles outbreak in 2019, spring of 2019, to world premiere at the Palm Springs Film Festival of January 2023, just under 4 years. Did I do the math right, everybody?
That sounds right to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, and I've had longer, I've had a little bit shorter. It takes a lot of time, especially the editing process. There's a person who introduced a stop motion film. I saw at a film festival once, and this story rang true for me as a documentarian, especially the editing process. He said, making a stop motion film is like making love and being stabbed to death at the same time. I was like, oh, that's editing a documentary. Because it's so brilliant. It's so amazing. It's so hard. You're so tired. Like, what does it all mean? It's all this footage, and you have to keep going like this, and then keep going this again. But then when it works, it's magic. It's just absolutely magical that you can take these pieces of people's real lives and turn them into these moving scenes and sequences, and then an entire film. So I'm so honored to be able to be a storyteller.
Well, being mindful of both of your times here, I'll ask one more quick question to both of you and then let you go. And the first one goes to Neil. Now, this is a stupid person asking a smart person a question here. So Samoa is one of the focal points of the film. We see it in one of the trailers and all that. Growing up, the only things I knew about Samoa were through WWF and professional wrestling, when one of 8 wrestlers would be from Samoa, and those were the toughest people. But now as time goes on, we see the contributions to the world and all that. Had you been to Samoa prior to working on this project?
No, I have not been to Samoa, and I came onto the project after Scott already had a couple of hours worth of glued together footage. So my role in this was primarily to help sharpen the communication within the storytelling arc that is totally Scott's purview, and to try to make sure that at every point where science is communicated in a clip, was it communicated in a way that lands in the way we intend, or must it be supplemented in some other way, either narratively or through some graphic to support it. So I've yet to visit Samoa. I'm happy to say that president, that prime minister, the fact that he would do 180 once information was made clear that his original decision was a mistake.
Amazing.
How many politicians do that?
Yeah.
How many of anybody does that? And so
context to that, but go ahead and finish, Neil.
yeah. So this is I thought that was a very important part of the film. It's an existence proof, as we say in mathematics, of what is possible if you have enlightened governance that can respond to emergent scientific information.
And humility, as we've talked about so many times.
That's it, humility. Yeah.
To have the humility to say that you did something wrong. So yeah, in 2018, there was a terrible tragedy in Samoa where 2 babies were given an MMR vaccine and they died, and it was just a human error. But the anti-vaxxers, a human error that they mixed a muscle relaxant in with the MMR vaccine, and these 2 babies died. It's awful, tragic. But the anti-vaxxers tried to point to it and say, look, it's the MMR vaccine. Led to huge outbreak of measles. The prime minister at first stopped all vaccines on the island. He'd been led astray by disinformation merchants, making him think that the MMR vaccine might have something to do with his grandson's autism. So it was sort of a perfect storm. Thankfully, after this huge measles outbreaks, 5,000 cases, almost 100 babies dead, the prime minister, as Neil just pointed out, did change his mind, got his vaccine on the news, and they did stop this measles outbreak. Not after people like Robert Kennedy Jr. hadn't caused a great deal of harm to this conversation.
Well, the last thing before I let you go, Scott, to us, it's a new film. To you, it's an oldish project. Are we allowed to know what's next from you? With Neil, we know what's next. We just have to check social media. But Scott, for mystery.
Yeah, I don't know how Neil gets everything that he gets done. I think he's cloned. He might have been cloned, and he hasn't told us.
He's like Gallagher. There's a Gallagher 2, except there's a Neil 2.
I hope there's a Neil somewhere sleeping, because the man deserves a lot more sleep than he's probably getting. Sure. So many projects percolating. One of them is another one that I hope my friend Neil will collaborate with me on as well, with the working title Alien to Me. And it's a debunking of the disinformation around the UFOs and now UAPs. And Neil really hit me with why this is an important project, not just because the New York Times failed at having a front page article in 2017 trying to say that, this is evidence of more UAPs out there with these fuzzy images taken from Air Force jet fighters. Fascinating thing to look at. But the people who wrote the pieces were believers, and it should have been retracted. But when Neil and I were talking about that, I said, well, what is behind all this? And he goes, well, one of the things that frustrates me is they're not just wrong, but they make it seem like we in the science community wouldn't be excited to find ET. Like, of course they would. Look at the cheering and tears of the rover landing on Mars, right? It's out of balance, not just in the disinformation. It's out of balance, taking away from the brilliance of the people working so hard to try and find if there is intelligent life out there. So it would be a reset of that.
Hope that happens. Looking forward to that. But thank you, too, for putting this documentary out into the world, and looking forward to all of those projects. And Neil, the next time I see you, I want that platinum record up on that wall.
I'll work on it. Okay.
Paltrocast.